you all know that we went to the Mont Pelerin Society conference in Mexico City. We just got back about a week ago, and we made huge headway at this conference. And I'll talk to you a little bit about this. Uh, First of all, what I found very attractive is that everyone there, for the most part, is libertarian. And many of those libertarians are Austrian school libertarians. It's just a real joy being around people like this who immediately grasp the value of the prime law and what it means. There's no explanation needed. You just present it, and they're like, "Oh my God, yes, we should have had this 100 years ago." So it's very um, just fills you with a great feeling being around people like that. Number one. Number two, these aren't just people doing mental gymnastics. I mean, these are people out there really applying themselves, a lot of businesses trying to take their business to the next level. It's always been a joy for me to be at business conferences in general, just to be around people like that, people who are ambitious, who have dreams, who pursue their dreams. It's a great environment. And also, I do believe I will be attending more of these Mont Pelerin. They happen annually, although I think we're going to do two this year. Um, and one will be in America, in Tennessee. Is that right, Wallace? Tennessee? I think Morocco, America. Well, that's the next big one, but there's also going to be one in the States. I think it was, yeah, it's in Tennessee, Tennessee. Uh, so I'll more than likely be attending those as well, at least the one in Tennessee. I'm not sure about Morocco yet. Uh, Now, ironically, though, well, let me back up a second. Austrian school libertarians. Well, we're talking about classical liberalism. Now, remember my talk last month? I went through the whole history. Classical liberalism was around for decades and even up to 100 years with John Stuart Mill before it was ever, all those principles were codified by the U.S. Constitution, by our founding fathers, in order to build a country which became the greatest country by far that's ever existed. A country built on classical liberalism principles. Now, before the Constitution, before the founding fathers, before America, as I was in Mexico City, I was scolded by calling us American Americans, the United States of America, and U.S. citizens. Uh, and then in Latin America and Central America, they are a little bit offended if you just refer to us as Americans or as America. Uh, so for the 100 years prior to that, the classical liberalism principles developed, and they were bandied about, and they were used where they could be applied in Keynesian governments or in um, authoritarian governments. So they would pick and choose where they could to get these liberalism, classical liberalism principles, put them to work. And even today, you see that in Argentina with Javier Milei, where he is surrounded by a Keynesian government, and he's just knocking everywhere he can with libertarian principles. All right, so remember last month I talked to you about classical liberalism and how it was the U.S. Constitution that codified those and created a base for this great country to rise from. Um, then in the 20th century, libertarianism, which was sort of like the new classical liberalism, rose uh, because so much government authority had started moving in across the world, with central banking, with welfare states, with just greater and greater authority. You know, the New Deal. So libertarianism rose, sort of off those old classical liberalism principles. Libertarianism rose as a counter to growing authoritarianism. The prime law is codifying libertarianism, particularly the non-aggression principles. You see people like Millay, the highest ranking libertarian of all time, in there in his Keynesian government and authoritarian government, just fighting away with libertarian principle. You know, he's got his chainsaw out there, and you know, he's doing what he can. But there's never been a country ever built on purely on libertarian principles, and particularly on the non-aggression principle. That's what the prime law is, and that's what it does. And I'm telling you, in an environment like at Mont Pelerin, how wonderful it is to just be able to talk to people and for them to get it on the first go. You know, just first discussion about it, they get it right away. That was fantastically rewarding. But like I said, ironically, I made a major pivot change in Mexico City while at the Mont Pelerin Society. You know, up until now, I've been talking to you about the most successful special economic zones, SEZs, and I've been showing you, particularly in the daily prime literature, I've been showing you how the common denominator of the successful ones is freedom. And the common denominator of those SECs that don't survive or don't do well is the government regulation coming in, government taxes coming in to destroy those SECs. So it's freedom. So I've been pushing this idea that Immortalis can surpass all the SEZs, the special economic zones. We could surpass Dubai. We could surpass Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong. And why is that? Because with the prime law, we take freedom to its absolute, and no one's done that before. And you can see now how Hong Kong's being taken over now by the anti-civilization. You saw that with a great shot at an incredible potential SEZ with Prospera, and you saw the Honduras government move in. You see some corruption now beginning in Dubai. You see it slowly happening. I can see it at least in Singapore, in Taiwan. Well, you see it in a large scale in Taiwan with the threat of China. But there you go. The whole point of the prime law constitution of Immortalis was we would have the freest ever special economic zone or special autonomous zone. So I've been pushing the idea we can surpass Dubai. We can surpass Singapore and Taiwan. We can outdo them in prosperity and wealth and standard of living and forward movement. But I pivoted while in Mexico City. And the proof of the effectiveness of my pivot showed itself on my last day there. The beautiful thing of all this is the pivot brings me to my essence and to your essence too. You see, if we focus, as I was, on the prime law and the freedom, the ultimate, the zenith of freedom, as I said last month, and how that can bring us past all special economic zones on the planet, which it could and would and will. It requires neo-thinkers to grasp that wide picture, right? To understand, you know, neo-thinking is this wide scope thinking, to pull in all the puzzle pieces, to understand why that is, why the prime law. You have to go back and pull together my speech last month about, you know, the U.S. Constitution, the Founding Fathers, John Locke, and all the way back to John Stuart Mills, and all of that is integrated into that thought. And the whole concept of all these SECs, their success ingredient is freedom. The ones that don't make it is it's regulations and the government, authority, really higher authority. So you have to pull all that together to really grasp what we're trying to do here with the prime law, with that autonomy, to open up a place for all industries to boom, and to, as I write about in the New World, to make every citizen, everyone in that zone or that country wealthy without lifting a finger, because the cost drops so dramatically as the values soar. It's basically Moore's law, but spread beyond, metaphorically, it's Moore's law in the computer industry, but spread across all industries. the whole industrial landscape. And the citizens will be the benefactors of soaring values and collapsing costs. But that takes neothink to grasp all that. You're all neothinkers, right? You've been reading my books for years and talking amongst yourselves and your communities. You're all neothinkers. But if you just go to the average Joe out there or average Jane and you try to explain all this, it's just too much. The irony of it all is I saw how easily, how palatable all of this was to the members of the Mont Pelerin Society. They just ate it up. And I was thinking, it's that contrast. It was that contrast to how easy it was for me to communicate this to these people, as opposed to what I usually go through in a group setting. Let's say I'm in a table of 12 people, and I usually have 7 or 8 antagonists coming at me, and I have to just keep working away to try to win over the whole table. But at Mont Pelerin, I turn to my right, there's a leading figure for the Cato Institute. I turn to my left, and they're all just right away. They tell me more about the prime law. Let me have your card. I love this. It was too easy. And that ironically made me realize we need to pivot. And the pivot is so natural and so beautiful. And you're going to find this out when you talk to your friends and family members. By my last day there, I'd figured out this pivot. Here I was, my last day. I thought, I'll try this new approach. And someone who's high up there in an Eastern European country, the whole trip, our last day was a tour of the pyramids. The whole trip, he was sitting next to me, talking to me. Basically, he was chasing me as opposed to me chasing him. And I realized it was my new approach. So here it is. And this goes back to my essence for 50 years. It goes back to your essence. It goes back to the essence of immortalis. Remember, immortalis, immortal, right? All right, so here's the big pivot. We approach countries, we approach government officials in countries, we approach, you all know who I'm talking about in Argentina, we approach, you know who I'm talking about in America. We approach these people high up there in their governments, and there's another Central American country that's really interested, and another Latin American country that's very interested, which I had to cross out from today's talk, but just realize that a lot's going on out there. We approach them this way, and this is how I approach the Eastern European government official. I say, what we're about is we want to become the medical mecca of the world. We want to open our doors to all the entire longevity industry. We want them to come into Immortalis, and by reducing regulations dramatically and taxation and litigation, we want them to rapidly cure debilitating diseases, everything from mental disorders, anxiety, depression, to age-related disorders, Alzheimer's, dementia, to the biggest killers of them all, cancer and heart disease. And yes, we consider aging a disease, and we want to cure aging as well. In the process of bringing your country the medical mecca of the world, you see what I'm doing here now? I am focusing only on the medical and longevity industry. So when I talk to a Eastern European country, which I did on the last day, and I told him we would be bringing his citizens very cheap and affordable, but the best healthcare in the world, he's in. That's the pivot. And the pivot is who we are. right? You know, years ago, when I'll tell you a huge marketing breakthrough for me years ago in the early days was when I realized by what we were doing, who we were embattled by, who we were in a war with, the government, the US government, and how I would invite people into our community. Well, at one point, my brother and I realized we are actually a secret society. We are a secret society because we can only bring in people we invite who we go through a lot of trouble to find out, to vet them, who they are, and to be sure they're real searchers. And we even in the early days, actually for quite some time, we had a footnote. And I don't know if any of you remember this, but this was decades ago. We had a footnote that said, no government officials, employees, uh, organized religious clergy. Um, okay, well, that was decades ago. I don't remember the whole footnote, but you get the point. We actually up front excluded a big swath of people from having any invitation or right to come into our society. We vetted. And it was at that point we realized we are a secret society. And then when we realized that and we embraced that, our company took off because we got closer to who we were. We got closer to our essence. Way back in the early days of marketing neotech before there was a neothink. And I think all of you know the story of me. I was a boxer in college, never got cauliflower ear, but with the old landlines on the phone with my father for hours every day working on this brochure. And what we were trying to do is get closer to what neotech really was, what the essence of it was. And that was our marketing piece, our letters that we sent out. We calculated we spent more time per word on that original letter, that brochure letter, than any other piece of literature ever written. I got cauliflower ear from those heavy landlines, the many hours every single day. And what we were doing, we were getting closer to the essence of neotech. And that's when our marketing exploded. You see, the closer you get to the essence of who you really are, and that's true in all fields. When my daughter was in the entertainment field, the closer we got to her essence as an entertainer, the more successful she became. So the closer we get to our essence is who we really are. We are immortals, are we not? And that's our drive underneath. It's not to become bigger than Dubai, have taller buildings. That's not it. It's not to be more successful trade than a port than, say, like a Hong Kong. That's not it. Our essence is to cure diseases, particularly age-related diseases, with the ultimate target on aging itself. So I went down to our essence. Last day, sat there with this Eastern European, and he was chasing me for immortalis, chasing me. That's the power of aligning with your essence. Now, it doesn't mean the prime law is not there or it's any less significant. But you see, if we start this by having the people fall in love with us, remember that one successful zone in Honduras, on the mainland of Honduras, right? Having the people fall in love with us in Eastern Europe or in Central or South America or in America, now United States of America, when they fall in love with you, you have so much more power, the power of the people. And that allows our pathway to the prime law much more plausible. You see, there's no way we're ever going to get just the prime law and autonomy with the prime law right off the bat. That's just not going to happen. So we keep pushing that. And what that does, that actually pushes people away from us. And when I say not people you're dealing with, it's very important for the prime law to spread amongst you. But the people I'm dealing with, government officials, it's too much. It's just too much. Even your top, I mean, there may be one politician, and you all know who he is down there in South America, who will resonate completely with that. But everyone, including, I'm just going to say this, freaking Eastern European country, right? The last place you'd think is chasing me because I presented it this way. We're there to rapidly cure debilitating diseases, mental diseases, physical diseases, even everyday health care, because that's what will happen. When you have metaphorically Moore's law in the medical industry, boom, everything's going to be taken care of. Values soar, costs collapse. And I say your citizens will have the greatest, most affordable healthcare in the world. And we will set the example for the rest of the world. He wants that. He wants that claim in his country. And when we approach the Trump administration, we will come in from that angle as well. Basically, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, should be the home of Immortalis. This is all psychology. All right, I think I've said enough about the pivot change. By the way, I call it our face to the world. Our face to the world is we want to create the medical mecca of the world to lower costs, drive up medical values, and have the citizens have the most affordable and best health care in the world. That's all we need to talk from that point. Everything else will be built in my negotiations with the country, with a pathway to autonomy with the prime law. But this is the way there. And the irony of it all is I realized this when we were surrounded by soulmates from a philosophical, economic, and intellectual level down in Mexico City, Mount Pelerin. Now I want to just run through a little history of our growth. So we launched the network state Immortalis on my birthday, September 3rd, 2024. Was that about 6 months ago? 6 months ago. Soon thereafter, Wallace and Josh headed off to Singapore to Balaji's network state conference, which was very, very helpful. Met some very important people there, including someone who's on our team now. Then, not long after that, Wallace headed to Honduras, to Roatan, gave an incredible speech. And by the way, those speeches still have not been put up. I've heard they can take 2 to 2.5 months for whatever reason. Made some great progress there in Honduras. Then Cody Dean stepped up and started the Immortalis show. Then he very strategically called James Stroll, co-founder of Radfest, had him come on the show, developed a good relationship there. And now remember, James Stroll is connected with people in the longevity industry. Then I had seen some information on a Jose Luis Cordero. I saw a picture, I believe it was on X, with him with his arm around Javier Milei, holding up this book right here, The Death of Death, which again, I strongly recommend all of you picking that up off of Amazon. It's like $22. Great perspective, will help answer a lot of your questions about, from a scientific standpoint, about aging and curing aging. So Cody very strategically talked to James Stroll, who knows Cordero, made the connection, made the introduction, and then Jose came on the Immortalis with Cody, did uh, I think it was perhaps a full hour on the Immortalist. And then after his interview, I called in and talked to Jose for a bit. That was our first communication. An incredibly friendly, fun, happy person. And we met Jose down in Mexico City. He's been incredibly valuable. So yeah, after that, we went to Mexico City, and you know the story there that unfortunately President Milei had to pull out. There's some real problems going on in Argentina at the time, including a terrorist attack. So that plan was canceled. However, I'm very glad I went. Very, very glad. I almost didn't go after that, but it was just fantastic, the conference. Jose was incredible. He's really special to us. He's part of our team. He knows everyone there. He's been in the Mont Pelerin Society for years, so he introduced me to everyone who's important. Made great connections to an advisor to the president of a Central American country that we'll be looking into. Also, another Latin American country we'll be looking into. And he introduced me to the Eastern European government official who was very interested in Immortalis. He's the one who I used the new approach with, the new face to the world. Just great, great things happening there. And I'm going to cut out that big piece of my speech that was going to tell you about this place because I can't right now be mentioning names and places, getting a little ahead of ourselves. But incredible potential there as well. So let's see. That was Mexico City. We have a meeting Monday with somebody who's connected with billionaires here in America in the longevity field. And by the way, it was reading this book by Jose that helped me pivot. One of the points he makes toward the end of his book is that the longevity industry is about to become the largest industry in the world. Now, remember when I started, and you've read it in my writings, when I started this, whenever I talked about longevity to friends, to coworkers, when I would go to business conferences, when someone would ask me, well, what are you about? What are your writings about? And I try to start talking about longevity and immortality. Really, after about 7 minutes, their eyes would just glaze over, and I could tell they're not absorbing what I'm talking about. Were considered back in those days as quacks. Now, however, it's about to become the largest industry in the world. And wow, are we sitting in the perfect position? We're not, let's say, opportunists. We are genuinely, that's our essence. That is who we are. And here we're going to focus and bring in the longevity industry into Immortalis. It's powerful. Powerful. When we got back from Mexico City, I reached out to a friend who's connected to Trump's inner circle. And she gave us some very good advice. She explained how she's witnessed how Trump operates. She said, if we put together a turnkey package to where we pull together all of the next steps, the land, she suggested looking at federal land that's just sitting there because Trump has a sore spot for that. He's said that many times that he doesn't like just federal land just sitting there and doing nothing. He likes to see land being worked and produced upon. So we find federal land was her recommendation, but land. We find land, we present how the research on the land, how we would go about opening our doors to the medical industry. Come to him with a large MOU fund. Those of you who are getting my daily primes know about that, and those of you on Immortalis know about that too, because I talked about this past week about my unique plan with MOUs. although I want to keep that confidential. So this talk will go on YouTube. So I don't want to. You all know what it is, and if you don't, go back to last week, look at my daily primes, and you will find my talk about the MOUs, memorandums of understanding. It's a powerful, unique approach. Have all this present, infrastructure plan, so on and so forth. So it's a turnkey. So we sit down with Trump and he goes, I love it, do it. See, that's the way he is. We don't go to him with a theory or an idea, talking about a prime law, talk about classical liberalism or libertarian. Don't go to him with all that. Just go to him pragmatically with a turnkey package where he can just say, let's do it. Uh, so that is our approach. We will be looking into the appropriate cabinet members to meet with as well. Um, Also, what it would take to uh, to legally allow this to work. Perhaps it must go through Congress first, but this is all part of our research. In fact, today, I believe Wallace is going to talk to you further about doing research. Yeah, he just gave me a thumbs up because we need to use our whole team, which is all of you as well. So we're going to put you to work on researching, doing a lot of research for us and getting back to us. So this is the approach, which I appreciate her input, and we're shooting to have something all put together by May 6th. So we're really going on the fast track on this one. Uh, reach out, okay. Yeah. So, oh, and I didn't mention this, James Stroll and the RADFest in July here in Vegas. We're going to throw either a dinner or an after party at RADFest for Immortalis. And our objective there is to reach the top people in the longevity field, to bring them in, talk to them, and all of you who have read my dailies know what I'm talking about. And I'll give a speech, and we will look at also trying to get memorandums of understanding, MOUs, commitments. But again, read my daily prime to understand that part of it more. So we'll have this large dinner or large after party. We will be traveling around the world with a team with members. I've been hiring some key people. All of this is happening while I'm tapering down my publishing business as my time and focus is going to Immortalis now. So we're spending tens of thousands of dollars without any return. There's no return on Immortalis. And I've tapered down my business as well. So I do want to say here that we do need to start bringing in money to help finance everything that's going on. And I want to take a moment talk about commitment because I feel that a commitment from all of us is needed at this time. But I just want to take a moment and talk about the commitment of one of our neo-thinkers. Hold on a moment. Right. And I'm just going to say Wallace just handed me a note, which is a very good point. He says, we want to be self-funded 100%. That way, no one can tell us what to do or control us. Critical. This is why we need a commitment from all of us because we're all part of this team. I'm spending tens of thousands of dollars on this. The whole Hamilton family is. My sons, my daughter are spending their own money toward Immortalis because we know that this is the zenith of what started, not only what I started, but not only what my father started. We're into 60 some years at this point, but also the whole line of economists and philosophers and good politicians who have always dreamed of what we're now bringing to the world. I want to just take a moment, and I hope it's okay with you, Cody, just to point out commitment. Cody, on his own, has done all of this with the Immortalists, making these contacts for us with James Stroll, which was a huge contact, and roping in Jose Cordero, huge, huge contact, which leads to many of these good things that are happening. Devoting his time, his energy, his creativity to all of this. And Cody comes down to the Mont Pelerin Society in Mexico City on his own dime. It was $1,500 just to be invited into that conference. The hotels was ridiculously expensive. Uh, the just the incidentals and sorry. Oh, of course, and the flight too was ridiculous. So, Cody just ponied that all up himself. That's commitment, and that will never be forgotten. That's commitment. Cody's demonstrated this, the Hamiltons have demonstrated this, and I would like a commitment from all of us because we're all part of this team. I've thought a lot about this, and I think for a lot of us who aren't doing, extremely well, I think a modest $29 a month is very affordable. And remember, this is all tax deductible. So the 29 drops as a tax deduction too. And those who can afford more, who are doing well, 49 a month, 69 a month, 99 a month, whatever you can. I think who's our top one? It's like 250 a month is our top donor to, and he just sent out just a few of these notices, pledges, and that's what we've gotten. So this is a big movement. It's not just something we're just philosophizing or getting on phone calls and having some nice mental backflips and double somersaults and gymnastics. No, this is actually happening. The way you know it's happening is because it's pulled me completely into it. My time is very, very guarded and precious. But here I am down there in Mexico City. Here I am going to be at RADFest, giving a speech at our dinner that we host. This has pulled Mark Hamilton into it. This is really happening. This is my end game. And I want it to succeed for all of us, for my NeoThink family and beyond. So Wallace and we'll be putting up a pledge. I would love for you to donate, pledge to a monthly donation. There's a lot of values coming your way from this, not just the end value, but just all of the breakthroughs and integrations we make along the way are very, very valuable for you in your life. All right, well, that being said, I'm going to close on this note that no one knows this yet, not even Wallace. Wallace, I just said I'm going to close on a special note that no one, not even you as of yet, knows about this. But I've been pulling together a large NeoThink puzzle picture in my mind that it's just too soon to reveal it to you. It's also very, very confidential. So it might be one of those things that I just can't expose. It might have to be something that only exposes itself after the fact. But let me just say this, it could accelerate everything that we're doing. In fact, it has the potential to end run everything that we're doing quickly. So with that little teaser, and the one person I am going to talk to about this is Wallace after this meeting. I'll sit down with you, Wallace, and explain to you what this potential end run is. But even without it, we have a lot going on, a lot of promising progress, not just talk, but real, solid, hands-on progress. We're very proud of the progress. I'm very proud of the people involved in this, with my son, with Cody, with Jose, with James Stroll. I'm just very, very proud of these contributors. And I'm proud of all of you, and I want to get you more involved. Wallace is going to talk to you right now how you can get involved in potentially pulling this off right here in the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. That's where Immortalis belongs, in the greatest country in the world. I'll turn it over to you, Wallace.